I'm Daniel Mills with Tips of the Table, and today we're going to go over how to properly dress a new Halligan Pro Bar. We're going to show you a currently dressed one and a brand new one, which we're going to show you step by step how to properly dress. Now, in order to sharpen these, we're going to need some sort of a tool. In the past, we've learned that you're not supposed to use a grinding wheel to sharpen any of these hand tools, especially the fine points, because it could ruin some of the temper on the metal, might create too much heat. So instead of the normal grinding wheel, you're supposed to use a hand file, a bastard file. This can take a lot of time. It works very well. It's easy to get it right and perfect. It's hard to mess up because there's so little being taken off at a time. I've kind of taken the middle road, and I've found these sanding discs that go on a 4.5-inch angle grinder. Work great. You can get them in different grits, 60 grit, 80 grit, 120 grit, down to like a 20 or 30 grit. So I usually don't go any lower of a grit than 60 when I'm using them on a Halligan. But you can go all the way up to 120. It just take a little longer. But it's very forgiving. They're soft, softer than an actual grinder wheel. They don't create as much heat, but they're faster than a normal file to get this job done.
Okay guys, this is the forks of the Halligan, obviously, and typically when you're going to dress these, it's kind of up to you how sharp you want them to be or how far you want to go in taking material off. Me, I like to really get a pretty sharp edge on them and take quite a bit of material, just because a lot of steel doors, the seam can be very tight between the jamb and the door itself, so almost as tight where you can't fit a credit card in there. So you want your tool to give you the largest advantages possible, especially if you're ever having to force the door by yourself and things like that. So what we'll start out doing is we'll usually put it in a vise, and we'll take the sanding wheel, like Daniel mentioned earlier, and I'll start from the top and just kind of work my way here. When you first get the Pro Bar, it's going to have a very thick, almost triangular shape at the tips. He's kind of worked on it here and taken some of the material off, but not adequate for forcing a very tight door at all when you first get them. So I'll start at the top of the forks and just slowly start taking material down. And then once you get the the triangle taken out at top, then you can start at the bottom and begin working that way until it goes from that to something like that. Once you get it taken down with the sanding wheel, you don't want to take too much off, but once you get it down quite a bit, then you can take your bastard file and really fine tune it, because as he mentioned earlier, it takes off such little material in comparison to the grinder that you obviously kind of put a lot more into it, and it's a lot more detailed, so there's less of a chance of you chipping the end of it or anything like that. And remember, when you're using a bastard file, you file in one direction at a time. You don't go back and forth. You pick a direction and you go that direction every time.
Ultimate Scamby County Fire Rescue. About those Canadian hockey teams, ladies and men's gold in hockey. What's up, Broussard? More importantly, we're going to talk about the fork end of the Halligan bar. We've got one here that's not dressed. We have one here that's dressed. The difference is this portion right here is cut out with a file, not with any power tools, to retain the strength of the steel. And the reason we do that, so if we get in confined spaces, short areas, areas that we cannot see what we're doing, but we can feel, we can actually take this axe, hold it up against the handle portion here, and drive that fork in between the door. Now, if you look at this one over here, there's no possible way that we can do that. There's absolutely no way that we can drive that fork into any place. So if you just take a little bit of time when you get your new Halligan bar, file this out right here, get that as close to a 90 degree as possible, then you have an area that's flat enough that you can actually strike and drive in a confined area or dark or very smoky environment.
Next step we're going to do with dressing our Halligan is dressing the adze end of it. Now, some guys like more of a curve to theirs, some guys want a real fine tip on it. It's really a big personal preference. As you can see, this new one right here doesn't have as much of a curve as the one that's already properly dressed. So I personally like to get a good tip, fine tip on here, a real good tight taper, and that helps with going into a outward swinging metal door. As you can see on this one, it's pretty tapered down here. This is Jim's Halligan, and it helps to get a good purchase point. Some guys don't like to do that, which is fine. Me, I found it a little bit easier. Just the way I force doors is to start off with a good taper. I can get a little bit of a gap in there, an outward swing door, and then switch to the forks and use those to force the door. So the best way to do that, start from the back, just like we did with the fork end, and kind of feather it down. So we'll start from the back here, and we'll feather it down to the tip. And then at the end of that, after we get that curve how we want it, we're going to come to the bottom and kind of flatten out the last ½ inch, make it come to a fine point. As you can see, I've already started doing it a little bit on this one, and we're going to finish it up here, and I'll show you what it looks like.
Okay, next we're going to go over the pike and some of the depth gauge markings and things like that. Typically on the pike of the Halligan, I like to sharpen mine. I've used the baseball swing method at residential doors, getting into a wood frame to force the door. It works a lot better when the pike is sharp. There can be a point of contention sometimes with the baseball swing. Some people don't like it, some do. I've found that it works sometimes for me, so a lot of times I will sharpen it down a little bit. Typically with the pike, there's not a lot that needs to be changed on it though. Occasionally they're pretty blunt, you may want to sharpen them, but other than that, there's no real shaping that you need to do. Also, with the depth gauges, there's 2 on the fork on this side and on this side, and then also there's 1 on the Halligan. Typically with forcing doors, it becomes a feel. When you do it enough, you start to be able to feel the door, and this is something you don't really need a lot, but they're good if you don't have a lot of experience with forcing doors. It'll give you a reference point. I'm not going to really go into right now exactly how to put them on there, exactly what the uses are for them. We're going to make another video later about that. I would recommend that if you are planning on dressing your Halligan and you want to put depth gauges but you don't exactly know where they go, just don't even do it until you either ask somebody or shoot us a message and we'll try to answer it for you. We do have some plans on making forcible entry videos, but until you know exactly where these belong and what the uses for them are, I wouldn't put them in your Halligan. So that's pretty much that as far as the pike and the depth gauges. One more thing I wanted to mention is on these Halligans that come down like that, it's flat. A lot of times you can grind that down to where it's more of a flat square, similar to that, as opposed to having it shaped like that. What that'll do for you is if you ever have to strike the shoulder with the axe, it can give you more of a starting point or something like that. And so that's an option as well.
Now we've got this awesome set of irons. You know, we're going to add our axe to it, and I've got this great carrying strap to keep them all together.
Wait. What are you doing? Why would you even put this in the video?
You're right, because we don't need that. Once you get your 8-pound axe married with your irons, you can actually grind it down to make it fit properly to where it's going to hold together all by itself anywhere you go, and you don't need to bother with any of those carrying straps that they sell for extra money. You get to the front door, and you've got your irons. Standard forcible entry tool that you're going to marry with your Pro Bar is going to be an 8-pound flathead axe. Now, great thing to do with these is to wrap them with any type of wire, like a Ethernet cord, phone cords, any old cables you got for grip. Most importantly at the top here is for padding, so when you're striking something, you're not going to keep striking the fiberglass handle. Eventually it's going to break, so this is going to prevent anything happening to your handle where you don't have to replace it every year. Also, what you want to do with this is grind down a little bit at a time. Keep taking your forks or your Halligan and placing them on there and seeing if what you need to get done to make them fit tight. You're slowly going to grind it down to the point where you can slide your forks over. Give it a tap or two, and this is what your goal is going to be when doing this. So basically, you don't need a carrying strap anymore. and you're going to be able to carry this anytime and easily pull them apart once you get to the front door. One important thing to notice when you're wanting to take good care of your axes is axe maintenance. This flathead surface right here can get pretty gummed up after doing a lot of strikes with it, and the edges start to mushroom out. So every now and then you want to take a file, grind off these edges down, make it smooth and keep it flat. This is what you're going to look like as a finished product. And you want to keep as flat of a surface on here as you can. Every so often it's going to start rounding out, and that's just going to cause you to have a worse strike.
Now we're going to go over a little bit of maintenance and care for your irons. Obviously, without care, they're going to rust. Except for this one, the newer Pro Bars, they come in, I believe they're zinc plated. They come that way from Firehooks Unlimited to prevent rust. But your axes are not. Well, they may have some of their newer axes that are plated as well, but with the older irons, they're gonna rust. So what we typically do is, if rust begins to develop, we will take a wire wheel and obviously clean that off and things like that. We've always used motor oil or some other kind of tool loop to just kind of clean it up after we grind off the wire wheel off the rust. That little bit of lubricant will be something to help it from rusting as quick. Now, it's not permanent, obviously, so you're going to have to keep up the maintenance on it. One idea I did get from Sean Wilson from Search and Destroy Fire Training is to use the Rust-Oleum clear coat, and this Halligan here actually has it on there, my personal one, and it's only been on there, maybe a week now, but I like it. Haven't had any issues. So I would definitely recommend it. And as I get to use it more, I'll give you more feedback on it. But so far, I do like it. I've never been one to tape the Halligan or anything. I had some red tape on here before, and I just was not a fan of it. It just gums up real bad and wasn't comfortable. So I used some of this. This is actually Flex Seal. We'll see how it works. So I'm sure it's going to chip pretty easily and everything, but we'll just see how that works. Also, on the depth gauges, if you choose to, I did it for the video, if you choose to, you can mark them with orange fingernail polish or just acrylic paint or whatever for better visibility. On the 8-pound axe, Daniel discussed earlier about putting some tape and some wire around here to just protect the handle for when you're swinging. You can also put it down here and add some wire for grip if you want to. And this comes down to your technique and how you like to swing the axe and things like that. Also, we'll put a lot of wire down here at the very bottom to form a knot so that when you're gripping it, it's going to give you something to hold on to and your hand's not going to want to slip off as easily. So that's an option for you. There's quite a few people I've talked to that don't like any kind of tape on their Halligan or their axe. And so obviously a lot of the things we've mentioned today are personal preference. Take what works for you and leave what doesn't. Thank you.